What's up, everybody? We're back for another episode of Dad Let's Cook Something. Brendan, of course. Today, feeling some tacos. I always want tacos, but today is going to be a little new take on a taco because I now own a sous vide machine, and I'll show that in a minute for those that don't know what it is. But I'm very, very excited. We're gonna do some ribeye tacos that I've marinated in an ancho seasoning and chipotle seasoning. So keeping it Mexican, of course, because that's how I do it. And we're gonna top it off with some street corn, Mexican street corn. There's different names for it. Esquites, street corn. But this is like a deconstructed version. So rather it being on a corn and a cob or corn and cob, and just slathered with mayo and chili seasoning and lime and all that stuff, it's just going to be off of the cob. So the really good way to do it is if you grill your corn and get it nice and charred, then cut it up, then you're going to make your street corn. I'm not doing all that. I'm not grilling today per se because it's really hot here in Texas. I mean, and I don't have any shade in my backyard, so I'm going to just drain the corn like how I've done in the past, just with the Mexican rice and just other recipes that I've made. Gonna let it dry up a little bit so that way when I put it on the pan, I can recreate that char. I'll talk about the seasonings and everything. But yeah, it should be good. Gonna top it off just with some cilantro, some cheese, hot sauce. Real simple lunch. And I just wanted to do something really easy while my baby is awake. She's starting to not nap very long anymore, or not very long, but she's not napping as much during the day anymore. You probably can hear her. She's just playing in her pack and play. And she hears me and she's upset that I'm not playing with her. So, but because of that, the sous vide machine's really going to come in handy, and it's really going to allow me to cook meals and just kind of set it and forget it. But I'll explain that process. All right, so this will be the star of the dish today. So this is a ribeye that's vacuum sealed. It's seasoned with ancho powder seasoning. I'll show you guys which one I'm using. And there's a chipotle seasoning on it too. You can season it however you want, but just to kind of keep it with that Mexican flair, this is how I did it. Some new seasonings that I got, so I was eager to try them. You don't have to vacuum seal this. I purchased a vacuum seal just because I'm just a snob when it comes to food and I'm gonna use it, but you don't necessarily have to do that. You can do it in a Ziploc bag. I'll make a video on how to do it just with a Ziploc bag. But this will be what's going to go into the sous vide bath. So you can see there's water. This is going to be heating up to 129 degrees. This is an Anova, not a paid sponsorship. There's different sous vide machines out there, but this is just the one that I found because I found it used. Well, actually, no, it was unopened and being sold out here in Austin for $40. This normally runs for about $120. So I jumped on that right away. But basically, and it hooks up to your phone and there's recipes on the app. It's really cool. But anyways, this is heating up the water to a pretty low temperature. So it's hot for us on our skin, but when it comes to proteins, this is pretty low. So while it's in the bag, it's gonna sit in this water, and it's going to cook for 2 hours. So everything has its own recipe. This is 129 degrees at 2 hours. But what it's going to do is it's just going to slowly cook it. And then once my phone goes off, once it tells me it's done, then I'm just going to sear the heck out of it, give it a nice crust, and then I'm going to slice it up for tacos. So you don't necessarily have to do a sous vide machine, but this is awesome because it takes away time. Well, let me rephrase. It's going to take 2 hours to cook, but it's going to save me time and just needing to attend to it because... Say hi, Harley. You say hello. You say hi. it makes it easier to deal with my baby. So this is just one step that I'm gonna have to do. Once I sear it, searing it's not gonna take very long, but I want a really nice juicy steak. You can do this with chicken, you can do this with fish, vegetables, but this is what we're going with today. So we're just gonna toss it in here. This was in the fridge for a few hours, but we're just gonna drop it in there, and it's gonna do its thing for the next 2 hours. All right, so we're gonna drain the corn here. Just gonna kind of just let this get dried up a little bit. I'm not in a complete rush right now, so I'm just kind of letting this sit, and it's, you know, it'll drain as it needs to, and I'll just give it a shake here and there. And then with the cilantro, this is already pre-chopped. You know, for those that are, you know, getting into cooking, or if you've been doing it for a while, chopping things doesn't have to be difficult, even with the baby. Yeah, even with the baby. It doesn't have to be hard. This took a few minutes, and it's cheap. Like, cilantro is really cheap. Like, it only costs like 89 cents to like $1.20 for a bunch, and $1.20 could be if it's organic, but if you're not buying organic, it's really, really cheap. But if you buy this when it's already pre-chopped and in a package, it's going to cost like $4. Same thing with the jalapenos that I'm going to be using for the street corn today. A jalapeno is like 89 cents. But if you buy it pre-chopped in a little container that's like this big, then it's going to be like $4 or $5 once again. So take the time to chop, do things in advance. It'll make your life easier, and you'll save money too. So I just cut up some jalapenos. As soon as I took these out of the bag, I could smell them. So I know that because of me being able to smell the heat, these are probably going to be a little hot. Depending on when you buy your jalapeno, it may not be as crazy, but since I know that when I'm eating this taco, I'm going to use a pretty hot sauce that I just purchased. So I've already removed the seeds as much as I can. If you get a couple stragglers in there, it's not going to be a big deal. This was 2 jalapenos. Cut them up to your liking. I'll make sure to put that in the recipe. I just figured 2 cans of corn, 2 things of jalapenos might be okay. But when I go to make it, I'll eyeball it. And if it looks too much, I might maybe just do this half and keep like that much off. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Corn is now going to get, or the street corn's about to get assembled now. I've already added the jalapenos into a bowl. I pulled out some of my other ingredients. Now I'm going to get to cooking. So I didn't add all the corn in here. So there's a little bit left over, but I'm just going to brown this off in batches. So I'm just going to season this with salt and pepper. I will add some other ingredients as I go, but right now we just want to get these corn kernels some color. They're already cooked, obviously, because they're in a can, but now we're just trying to add a little bit more flavor to it. First batch of corn has been sauteed with a little salt and pepper. These were still draining, but they're not anymore. They're on a nice hot pan, salt and pepper. I'm going to brown these off, and then I'm going to add it to the bowl. So while the corn's cooking and while my baby is over here playing, can you say hi, Harley? Yeah. I added a little bit of queso fresco to this. So the block that I cut off was probably about this big. It was a little crooked, but it was about this big. If you're going to do a measurement, I'll put it in the description below, but it'll be about 1/4 of a cup. I'm going to add a little bit of this as well, cotija cheese. So the queso fresco will give it a little bit more texture. Cotija cheese is like the Parmesan cheese of Mexico, so it'll be a little bit more salty, and it'll kind of help bind this together because there's going to be some mayonnaise in here. This is like one of the only times that I eat mayonnaise because I hate mayonnaise. But this is probably not traditional to do both types of cheeses. It's typically just this one because this one is easier to melt. But while this is hot and everything, it's still going to melt and everything, but you'll get some nice little crumbly bits of the queso fresco. There's more at the bottom here, but I've already added About a quarter cup or so, maybe a little bit more of cilantro. Jalapenos are in here. The rest of the corn's gonna go in here, and now the queso fresco is in here, and I'll talk about the seasonings afterwards. Seasonings. This is a new one I picked up. Spanglish, asadero, Ancho Chile. So this is what I did the steak with. So just to kind of get the corn a little bit matched up with the steak, I'm gonna use this. Typically, Chipotle, chili pepper, and some kind of a paprika will go in this. I'm gonna add a little bit of cumin as well. I forgot to grab it, but it's just right behind me. This is very much gonna be kind of a rough estimate. This will also be in the description below. All right, seasonings are in. Chipotle chili powder, the Ancho Chile seasoning, smoked paprika. I also added a little bit of Mexican oregano. Once again, it's not fully traditional, but I like Mexican oregano. It adds a lot of really good flavor. Just don't overdo it. So for those Italian lovers out there, you know, if you add too much oregano, that's all you're gonna taste. And Mexican oregano is very, very earthy. So don't add too much of it. I'll put kind of a rough estimate also about that. The last thing will be, what are you crying about? What are you crying about, babies? The last thing we're gonna add, we're gonna juice this lime. So this doesn't need a ton of lime, but I'm also, I'm running out. So, but we're gonna juice this. It's okay, Harley. We're gonna juice this, and then we're gonna zest the skin of this lime. So basically, we're just gonna grate off the skin into there, so nothing goes to waste. The last things we're gonna add are the minced garlic, about 2 tablespoons, mayonnaise, about a quarter cup, and I added about a quarter cup of the cotija cheese. So just give this a mix, and then just salt to taste whenever you're done. But give it a taste once you get it all mixed up, and see if you need more salt. We are all done with the corn, and it actually tasted pretty good just with the amount of seasonings that I put in this. So I'm not gonna touch it. I'm just gonna leave it as is. If you don't want it this creamy, just don't add as much mayonnaise, basically. But this will hold up really nicely in a steak taco. All right, well, the Mexican street corn came out pretty awesome. And we're just gonna wait for this lovely meat to finish sous videing. So it has about, it's probably like an hour, 20 minutes, give or take. But I'm timing this just because my wife's working right now. She'll be home probably in the next hour and a half. She'll probably go down for a nap at some point. So I figured by the time the steak is done, she should hopefully be a little out of commission and be sleeping. And then all I got to do is sear the meat. So, and then from there, it's just heating up the tortillas, topping it off with everything, adding some hot sauce, and it should be good to go. So the street corn, you can keep it cold. You can serve it hot. You can reheat it. You know, just don't like torch it if you're going to reheat it. But it's something that can sit for, you know, a few days or so. This will probably be gone pretty quick. Excuse me, but yeah, Mexican street corn, it'll last in the fridge for a little bit. So we'll come back when we get to searing this steak, and then we'll assemble everything for you guys. So the steak is done. So I'm just gonna pat this dry a little bit, let it rest for a few minutes. I have the cast iron pan heating up, but yeah, so it looks boring, of course, when it's boiled, or sous vide, should I say. But once I put a crust on this, it's going to be an awesome, awesome steak. So stay tuned. All right, everybody, moment of truth. Let's see what the steak looks like. I'm gonna cut some kind of thin slices just so it can work its way into the taco better. Let me cut a big piece here so you guys can see how nice that looks. This is like the one thing about the sous vide that really separates itself from other cooking utensils, is that this wall-to-wall medium rare, like where there's no difference in color on the front and the back or the top and the bottom of the steak, that's hard to achieve with other things. So since I'm the chef, I'm going to test try this. Oh man, it's like butter, dude. It just melts in your mouth. If you can find a sous vide within your price range, please buy one. It is 100% worth it. I'm gonna finish cutting up this steak. All right, everybody. Moment of truth. It's gonna be a little hard to show you. But before I bite into it, out of Brooklyn, New York, this is a company called Señor Lechuga, Mr. Lettuce. It's out of Brooklyn, New York, and they make some very, very hot sauces. So if you like some heat, I definitely recommend this hot sauce. Once again, another non-paid sponsorship. But I think this is going to go well with the steak and the way how I seasoned it. Not going to go too heavy. But yeah, that's a nice little taco. Cheers. How can that be bad, man? Ancho seasoning and steak is a great combination. I've actually never done it before. This is my first time. The street corn has a good amount of lime in it. So unless you want to add lime to your taco, you can. Not saying you can't do that. But I don't necessarily need to because I can taste it. Meat is nice and juicy. Cilantro just gives it a fresh element to it. Hot sauce just kicks it up a notch. The steak, because of the sous vide, is cooked perfectly. All I had to do was sear the meat like a minute or so on each side on like a pretty high heat on a cast iron pan. And it came out pretty nice. All in all, this meal was not difficult. I apologize for hunching over because my tripod broke, so I gotta buy a new one. But very simple meal. And this could have been done within an hour if I didn't cook the steak this way. So 2-hour cook time plus like another few minutes on the cast iron definitely added some time to it, but the street corn takes minutes. 10 to 15 at most if you're like really taking your time. A ribeye of this thickness, it was about an inch or so thick. If you were to just do it on the pan or on the grill, like you can get it done in a few minutes, but the sous vide just makes it nice and juicy. And I have a really nice consistency with the meat in terms of my bites with it, because there's nothing worse than eating a taco and the meat is overdone. Because then you're still chewing, right? You're still trying to finish your bite and you're just holding your taco, and then you can't eat it because you're trying to finish your food. But the sous vide steak just melts in your mouth. I mean, it has a little chew to it. I mean, it's not like it disintegrates, but the sous vide is like, it's an amazing invention. And I'm really, really happy that I bought it. So I added a little bit of cotija cheese to the top of this. You can add more queso fresco if you want. You know, once you construct your taco, do whatever the hell you want, man. A taco is a beautiful vessel for a lot of good ingredients. And I kept this taco simple because one, I'm just trying to save time, excluding me using the sous vide, but want to save time. And two, a taco, the more simple, the better. You have a good piece of protein, you have some good toppings, a good sauce. I like cilantro. You don't have to add that to it, but I think just the meat, a good topping, and cilantro really just makes makes the taco really go a long way. Yeah, but like, how can a taco be bad? You know, if you don't like tacos, I don't know what your problem is. I'm using a flour taco. You could do corn if you want, but our grocery store in Texas, HEB, makes the best flour tortillas. So beef and flour also is a better match. But as much as I love corn tacos, their flour tacos are fire. Yeah, enough said. I'm going to enjoy this taco. Like, subscribe, follow, comments, anything, any support is very appreciated. If you tune into the other videos, I really, really appreciate it. Thanks so much, guys. Cheers.